As the congressman makes his way up here to the whatever we call this, the step and repeat, let me do a little bit of introduction. I'm Nick Howland, City Council Vice President, Navy veteran, and also one of the hosts of this event with State Representative Dean Black. You are standing right here on the grounds of the greatest craft brewery in Northeast Florida. So Veterans United is 100% veteran-owned craft brewery with many of the brands that you have seen at Publix, at Total Wine, and all over the place. Hot Banshee, Scout Dog, which is a beer that benefits Canines for Warriors, Alert 5, which is a beer that benefits 5-Star Veteran Center, the Watchstander, a beer which benefits something near to my heart, veteran suicide, with the Firewatch, and so many other brands. Ron Campbell and his wife Cheryl are the owners of Veteran United Craft Brewery. Ron, thanks for hosting this morning. Fantastic event and such a great turnout. We really appreciate you being so accommodating to us. Ron is also a Navy veteran. Ron handles, he's the master brewer here at Veterans United Craft Brewery. His wife, Cheryl, is Cheryl here? No. Okay, Cheryl handles all the marketing, and with so many of those brands I mentioned that you're familiar with. Don't ask Cheryl where the name Raging Blonde came from. Yeah, actually, don't ask her. But any event, such amazing beer, such an amazing veteran advocacy from Veterans United Craft Brewery. And it's wonderful to see so many folks in the crowd, particularly so many veterans. I see John Barrett, 5-Star, Michelle McManaman at Operation New Uniform. So many terrific folks doing terrific things on behalf of veterans in Northeast Florida. And why that's so important is, I don't know if anyone knows, but about 3 years ago, the state of Florida surpassed the state of California for #2 in the most veterans in the country. Texas is #1, Florida is #2. But what that also means is that we have so many problems that veterans face, not only across the state, but nationwide. Veterans having difficulty getting out of the service and finding new careers. Veterans having mental health issues that they may have encountered during their time in the service. We had a long period of war since the global war on terror started in 2001, and veterans have been the ones standing on that wall for us. They're the ones who've seen some of the worst of humanity, and they're the ones who carry some of those invisible wounds with them as they step into the civilian world. So we need to be taking care of veterans, and Congressman Donalds knows that, and he understands that, and that's why he's here today to hear from us. So I also want to acknowledge all my council colleagues here. We have Council President Kevin Carrico, who's here. We have Councilman Freeman. There's Kevin in the back. Councilman Freeman, Salem, Amaro, Lanin, and Miller. Did I miss anyone? If so, shout it out. And Councilman Arias came. Thank you, Councilman Arias. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Before we introduce the Congressman, who again has been such a fierce defender of the free state of Florida in Washington, D.C., and will be our next governor of the free state of Florida, I want to introduce a real good friend of mine who will then, we're doing it in seniority here, he'll introduce another one who will introduce the Congressman. State Representative Dean Black, an 8th generation Floridian. That's a wonderful stat. His family's been here forever, but my favorite stat is a cattle rancher by profession. And most importantly, an Air Force veteran. So I'll turn it over to him right now, State Representative Dean Black.
Thank you, Councilman. Can you hear me okay? Probably could hear me okay if I didn't even have this, huh? So I am an 8th generation resident of Florida, but more than that, in our family, men served in the profession of arms. My father, my forefathers all served. I served. My sons serve now. And how many veterans do we have in this room? Thank you for your service. Some were nervous. They said on a Monday morning, you'll never get people out here. I'm like, you don't know Jacksonville, and you don't know our veterans. We show up for duty, do we not? Give yourselves a round of applause. it should not be lost on any of us that we gather today to honor veterans and those who are fighting for us, even in this moment. So if I may, I'm going to ask that we have a moment of silence for those who have just lost their lives. And then I'll say a short prayer of protection for our soldiers. A moment of silence, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you, patriots and lovers of all that is just and true. And we ask, Lord, that you would send angels to watch over our soldiers wherever situated. Lord, that you would protect them. Lord, that you would protect all of their leaders. Lord, that you would grant them wisdom that comes from beyond the ages. And Lord, that you would grant comfort to the families whose loved ones have made the ultimate sacrifice. We each pray in our own way, and I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. I have members of the Florida House here with us. I see Speaker Pro Tem Wyman Duggan in the back. Everybody say hi to Speaker. Jessica Baker was with us. Kim Kendall, Representative Kendall. We got Sam Greco here with us as well. And I tell you, we have basically the entire government here. We really do. Our veterans have showed up, your government has shown up, and our grassroots have shown up. It's going to be a fantastic day. And I'll tell you, a dear friend of mine has also shown up, and you can always count on him to show up, not just in Congress, but you've been able to count on him to show up for decades. When you called 911, when there were shots fired, he was a man that didn't just serve you, he actively protected you. When the shots were ringing out, he ran toward the sound of the guns, not away from them. He continues the fight for us today in Washington, D.C., and what a fight that is. Friends, will you please welcome my dear friend, your congressman, who still to this day prefers to be called sheriff, even on the floor of the House. I give you Congressman John Rutherford.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean. Good morning, everyone. Listen, I have the great honor this morning of introducing you to my DC neighbor in the Longworth House office building, one door down. I have to tell you, I am here because, not because of what I heard about Byron Donalds, but what I've seen and heard with my own ears and eyes. But you all probably remember the disruption that we had this Congress, actually, where there was a little coup attempt on the Speaker's office. And I can tell you, it created amazing disruptions within the Republican conference in the House. There are 5 different caucuses, and they all have their own ideas about how things should go sometimes. And I'm going to tell you, we got through that very tough patch, I think, because of one man who had previously built all the relationships that he needed to be effective in a time of difficulty. Because as I used to tell my officers when I was sheriff, you can't build relationships in the middle of a crisis. You can only access the ones that you've already made. And what I saw was a congressman that had respect. And not only did he have the knowledge, but he had the respect of all 5 families in the Republican caucus. He pulled them together. We wound up with a consensus member actually two, and then we broke it down to one, and that's how we got Speaker Johnson. And I'm here to tell you, without the work that I saw and heard from Congressman Byron Donalds, we'd probably still be up there looking for a speaker, but we're not. And so it is my honor and privilege to introduce you to a man who is most fit to be the next governor of the free state of Florida, Byron Donalds. All right, Governor. All right.
Took the long way, sorry.
Thank you, 100%.
I'm gonna navigate this. I worked in AV before. I know what I'm doing.
Well, first of all, it is good to be up here in Northeast Florida. It's great to be here. And first of all, I want to just thank Veterans United Craft Brewery for opening up your place and really stuffing it. Hopefully, everybody's going to take some time to get some beer. Let me try this again. Hopefully, everybody's going to take some time to get some beer. To my friend, Sheriff Rutherford. John, thanks so much for your introduction. I really appreciate it. I was listening in the back and I heard you, refer to me working and trying to bring the 5 families together. And I told the guys in the back, I was like, I sound like Michael Corleone. Now watch, that's gonna go out on social media. It's really my honor. Thanks to everybody for taking your time on a Monday morning to be here and pack this place out. It really means a lot to me. It means a lot to my wife. I left my wife very early this morning to come up, and she looked at me and she goes, "You're going on the road again?" I said, "Yeah, baby, I'm going on the road again. I'll see you Friday." She goes, "Well, you better go kick ass while you're on the road." This is a good start. This is a good start. Thank you guys so much. I want to talk about a couple of things. First, I want to talk about the commitment Florida has had to veterans and the commitment Florida, as your next governor, we will continue to have to veterans who make Florida home. We are the best state when it comes to our veterans. We love you guys, primarily because you've done the thing that most people don't do. You put the uniform on. You left at very young ages. You served this nation with honor and dignity and courage. You did a lot of work at 6 a.m., a lot of PT. A lot of times it's very thankless because you're doing the jobs that most people have never seen, never thought about, never talked about, never truly envisioned. And you did that for a period of time. Maybe you served in war, maybe you served in peacetime, but no matter when you did it, you made the critical sacrifice so that America can continue to be the best nation that has ever graced the planet Earth. So I thank you for your service, and I thank you for your sacrifices. On a broader level, I want to thank your families. The sacrifice when you decide to serve this nation, the people who truly sacrifice are your families back home. It's your wives or your husbands when you go off. It's your kids who know what you do but haven't seen you in quite some time. And so being an elected official, there's times we're not home as well, but it's nothing compared to the sacrifice that you make and the sacrifice that your family makes while you're serving this nation. So we're very grateful to your families for deciding to make sure you can still give your full commitment to the United States of America. I know we have members of the state legislature here. I heard Dean basically say hello to you guys, introduce you guys in the back. They do a great job in Tallahassee, working incredibly hard. To all the local officials here in Northeast Florida, thank you guys for all that you do. Thank you for your commitment to this beautiful, beautiful part of the state. We really appreciate that. In terms of where the state is going, like I said, we're going to maintain our commitment to veterans. That is not going to change. I know that the legislature just passed unanimously out of both chambers a new pilot project to work on. I think that pilot program is in Escambia County, Hillsborough County, I think Santa Rosa County, and there's another county that I can't remember off the top of mind. We are going to make sure that that pilot program not only continues, it's about to start up later this year, very new program. We're going to make sure that not only does it continue, it's operating effectively. We want to make sure that our veterans who truly need help, who unfortunately right now are living on the streets, that there's an opportunity for them to put a roof over their head and get their life back in order so that they can transition from military life into civilian life and get all of the help that they so richly deserve. In Congress, I filed a bill that actually would allow for veterans to use their GI benefits to start small businesses. Look, we understand that not every veteran may go to college, and that's fine, but there's other ways to be successful in life. And so my hope is, look, yeah, you should apply for that. Great. My hope is that my colleagues on Capitol Hill will be,
Good luck.
I know good luck to us. It's tough. But my hope is that we get this common sense piece of legislation across the line, because letting a veteran use their GI benefits in order to create a business, to put food on the table, and to do great things for themselves and for their families, that is the least that the United States of America can do. So that's the stuff that we want to make sure gets done. When it comes to the VA, we're going to work very diligently with the VA. I was in Charlotte County 2 nights ago, and I was talking to one of the ladies that represents the local group of veterans down there. They're concerned about their clinic in Charlotte County. So she looks at me, she comes right up to me, she goes, "What are you going to do for my clinics?" And I was like, okay, that's aggressive, but I appreciate it. And I said to her, I go, look, what I will do is that I'll call Secretary Collins myself. I know Doug Collins on him for a long time. I know he and John served together. He and Doug and I didn't serve together, but I know John and Doug did. We're going to call him, get real detail on what's happening with that specific clinic. The reason why I raised that, because one of the jobs the state next governor is going to be with the administration and all cabinet officials to make sure that we're an effective thing for people of Florida to see the job done. And one of that is going to make sure that our veterans are getting the care that they need. So we're going to be focused on that as well. And I've been talking to Doug Collins about them finally getting all these medical records digitized, which the VA is way behind on. And I'm like, Doug, I mean, you got to finish this, because our veterans need to be able to get the care they need wherever they can get it. And one of the major obstacles is just getting all those medical records digitized. So he's working on that right now. He and I have already had that conversation. So I just want to let you know that when it comes to veterans in our state, we take this seriously. We love that you call the free state of Florida home. I got to go see Greg Abbott about being #1 for veterans we got to be #1. Yeah. So that gives us something to shoot for in Florida. We're #1 in everything else. So we got to be #1. But what I really want to do, this is not about me just talking to you. I want to hear from you. I really do. I'm going to share the reason why I'm running for governor. And after that, I want to hear from you. So any questions you have, please ask them. This is open dialogue. We're just going to have some fun, okay? But let me tell you the why. I moved to this state at 17 years old from Brooklyn, New York. I went to college in Tallahassee. I went to FAMU, and then I graduated from Florida State. Go Notes. Okay. See what kind of room we got. I'm running for governor. I love all of our schools. I just love one more than others. Sorry. but I have built everything in my life in Florida. I truly did build the American dream in Florida. And if we look at the rest of the country, it's actually really the Florida dream. You know, there was another state that used to be the state of innovation that people used to go to. It was the state that people chose to build careers and build dreams and build their life and grow their families. 40 years ago, that state was California, and they destroyed the place. It's a dumpster fire. California is no longer a dream, it's a nightmare. So here in Florida, my mission in being the state's next governor is because I want the Florida dream to not just exist in 2026. I want it to still be alive and well in 2056. 30 years into the future, when I'm long gone, and there's somebody else coming around saying they want to be your governor, I want to sit back and marvel at the fact that Florida has remained the best state in all of America. That's why I'm running to be your governor. I want the young kids in elementary school today to have every tool at their fingertips to building out the very best life for themselves. I want the kids who are now in our colleges, and some of them graduated high school and have gone to other states, I want them to be like, man, I got to get back to Florida because that's where it's happening. That's where it is. I want our state to still be a state committed to law and order, still committed to common sense, still committed to conservative principles, because that is how you build a just and sound society where everybody can thrive and people can excel. This is why I'm running to be Florida's next governor. And with your help, I won't just be running. I will be Florida's next governor. So with that, I'll take whatever questions you have. Please don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
You're a rock star. You're going to be our next governor. I want to ask you, what is your opinion? What is your opinion? You've got such a wide breadth of knowledge in every aspect. One of the things I like about you most is your intuitiveness about foreign policy. What do you think about Donald Trump's current actions on Iran? Because you know that question is going to come to you.
Oh, that's all right. Listen.
That's the one I want to start with.
Well, let's talk Iran. First of all, I think the president is doing the absolute right thing. Let's first talk about the foreign policy view of the president of the United States. There is this misconception going on that America first means America only. That is not true. America first means putting America's foreign policy interests first before any other country. It means putting America's economic interests first before any other country. It means putting American citizens first before any other country or any other person that chooses to want to come to the United States. When it comes to the Iranians, the president is clear-eyed on this. Their ballistic missiles are a threat, not just to our allies in the Middle East, but now we know because they fired a rocket at Diego Garcia to our allies in Europe. That is a direct threat. Number two, the Iranians are a theocratic dictatorship. They do not care about civil rights. They do not care about living harmoniously with their neighbors. They do not care about economic freedoms, economic welfare. They want Sharia law and they want jihad across the entire globe. They are the largest state sponsor of terrorism. And they have been reckless in lying to the West, by the way. They have been reckless in their pursuits of a nuclear warhead. A regime like this cannot have nuclear weapons. Cannot. Period. I know Steve Witkoff. And I know Jared Kushner. When they went into those negotiations, and by the way, after we blew up their stuff last summer, we blew up their facilities last summer, we had a lot of people who were concerned, oh my gosh, it's the start of World War III. And I said, slow down. That's not the Donald Trump I know. He told them stop enriching. They kept enriching. He told them stop enriching. They kept enriching. He said, okay. And he hit them. And then they went back to negotiate. They were at the negotiating table using diplomacy. I know the press doesn't report on this. And I know the black pillars online don't talk about it. But this is what happened. They went back and they were actually trying to negotiate. And the Iranians came in with their chest puffed out saying, we have 24,000 pounds of enriched uranium and we can break out in 3 weeks. And so this is non-negotiable. We're not going to talk about it. We can talk about other things, but we're not going to talk about our nuclear powder that we have. The president has called it the dust. You've heard him refer to it as the dust. So he's left with a decision to make. Do we continue to negotiate the foolish way that the West has been negotiating with the Iranians for 47 years? Or do we prove to them once and for all that we mean business and we're not playing around? The truth is, with that regime, the only thing they respect is strength and decisiveness. And so the president did the right thing, but the tough thing. And he has now for the last 4.5 weeks launched targeted strikes against the Iranian regime. And he's right to. Now, just like you, I'm very concerned about troops being put on the ground. I don't want to see troops on the ground. And I will tell you, knowing Donald Trump the way I know him, he doesn't want to put troops on the ground. This is very different than Iraq. Very different than Iraq. Very different from Afghanistan. So we have a job to do. I think they're going to be very targeted in this job. I think they're going to be very succinct in what they're going to do. Knowing the president, knowing Secretary Rubio, they are not in it for long military campaigns that are going to last for years and leave more and more of our men and women in harm's way, coming home either in a casket or coming home with significant ailments. I don't believe that to be Donald Trump's foreign policy or worldview. His foreign policy and worldview is, if you mess with me, I'm going to come over, I'm going to blow up all your stuff, and then I'm going home. And I actually think that's the way you use the United States military. We don't do 20-year engagements. We don't do 10-year engagements. We don't do 6-year engagements. We go over with our men and women, the best military in the world. We blow up all your stuff, and then we go home. Come back. Our negotiators have a very simple statement. You want us to return. I don't want to return. So if you keep messing around, it's on everybody's t-shirt today. AFO, it's not, you're going to find out. And I think that's the way he's conducting it. Last thing I'll say on what's going on in Iran and with the president. And I've told this to the press on several occasions now. Look at his foreign policy compared to the last 4 presidents. Look at it. Barack Obama signed a terrible deal with the same regime, gave them $150 billion. And what did they do? They kept enriching. They expanded their ballistic missiles capabilities. And by the way, they told us their ballistic missile capability couldn't go more than 2,000 kilometers, but just launched one going 4,000 kilometers. They lied to us. They lied to the Europeans. The Europeans look real weak, by the way, but that's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. So they lied to us. The Obama administration knew they were lying to us, and they did it anyway. Joe Biden, no need to talk about it. He's a disaster. George W. Bush's foreign policy is what got us into a 20-year conflict, which is why so many Americans, forget politics, so many Americans, number one, are war weary, and they should be. They're concerned about another long-term engagement, and they should be. But that's the foreign policy of George W. Bush. And Bill Clinton is the reason why Rocket Man has nuclear weapons. That's Bill Clinton. Not to mention the Russians pushing the Clintons around all over the globe, and not to mention when Hillary was Secretary of State, taking that stupid reset button to Vladimir Putin, which all that told him was, oh, that's a nice button. Okay, I'm gonna go take Crimea now. That's the history of foreign policy in the United States by former presidents, not named Donald Trump. These guys like to use model UN tactics to create diplomacy. No, that's stupidity. You have strong foreign policy, peace through strength. You strike when it's necessary, and you go and negotiate after. That is what the president of the United States is doing today, and we need to be backing him in this effort. The president has been right to be ambiguous with his language when he talks to the press. Like I tell the press all the time, why in the hell would I negotiate through you? Why would I tell you what I'm going to do? That's called being dumb. Anybody in here know negotiating a contract or negotiating with another company? You don't go tell everybody else what you're going to do at the negotiating table. That's how you lose the negotiations. But we have people in the media who say, oh, well, you didn't tell us exactly what you were going to do. I know, I did it, and I'm smart not to tell you exactly what I'm gonna do, because I'd be tipping my hand to the Iranians. Last thing. Our colleagues on Capitol Hill who are with bated breath, wanting war powers resolutions, all that does is empower the Iranians. All that does is empower the Iranians. Listen, I have been critical of the Biden administration. You've heard me be critical of the Obama administration. But when you're in the middle of a conflict, America has to speak with one voice. When you got people on Capitol Hill and in the news media, and to be blunt, some people on our side of the aisle, who are rubbing their hands feverishly, tweeting out at 120 characters, trying to figure out how we get the president to get back into his right mind and his right thinking that there's another country that can tell Donald Trump what to do. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. All you do is you weaken the president of the United States and you empower the Iranians. There is one commander-in-chief in our country, one, not 535. John is not the commander-in-chief. I'm not the commander-in-chief. Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief. We speak with one voice as a nation. We do not empower our enemies. We make sure they strike fast and quick and make sure that our guys come home safe and sound. That's the great thing. Man all the way in the back with the freedom shirt. Nice shirt. I like that shirt.
Hello, Congressman.
How you doing?
Thank you for being here. I have two questions. That's okay. The top priority for Floridians is homeownership and affordability. Will you promise to ban private equity firms like BlackRock from buying family homes in Florida, which is something Charlie Kirk directly endorsed, is banning that sort of thing. Another issue for Floridians is electric and water costs. AI data centers have proven to cause higher electric and water costs. Will you promise that as governor, you will stop the construction of AI data centers in Florida? Thank you.
Great questions. First question, when it comes to private equity firms buying property directly off the market, yes, I'm opposed to that. We're going to stop that. Because what happens is they have a line of credit sitting in whatever office they're in, and they're on Zillow basically buying stock. So that's a practice that doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't help Floridians. Two things on affordability past just acquiring property. We have to streamline permitting in our state. 30% of the cost of building a new home is permitting. 30%. If a home costs $300,000, that means $100,000 of it is governmental permitting. That's insane. It's insane. If we're going to talk affordability, it's not just about the private equity guys. It is about how efficient is it to build a home in Florida. If 30% of the costs, you're a young man, if 30% of the costs is government, not the plywood, not the wiring, not the plumbing, not the roof, government, something is going drastically wrong. We cannot let governmental costs increase the cost of living on the people that we serve. This is one of the reasons why the governor is so adamant about repealing homestead property taxes. Because when government costs make it more expensive for people to live, something is going wrong. We have to be far more efficient with how we do our business in government. So I would argue to your core question about the private equity guys, yes, of course, that needs to stop and we're going to stop that. But it's much more about how expensive is it to actually build a home. Let me give you an example. If a new home, let's say it's $500,000 for that new home to hit the market. And we already know a third of that cost is roughly government, right? Well, then all you're doing is increasing the value of every other home that was been built. If somebody's in a home, a pre-owned home, single family, you're buying it somebody else's house. Well, they're going to look at the market too. And if they see new housing stock is $500,000, well, then they're going to price their house at some derivative off $500,000. If you get government costs out of the way and actually decrease them and shrink them, then what you're actually doing is for new home stocks, you're actually bringing those values down. So if somebody goes to resell their house like me, I'm actually doing myself a disservice because I own a house. If I actually bring down the cost to build new homes, then what I'm also doing is I'm bringing down the cost to resell existing homes. That directly helps you and helps your generation who are trying to get into the home buying world. Number two, when it comes to condominiums, and by the way, this is just new stuff just happened. Working with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, specifically FHFA, we were able to secure commitments from the Trump administration that in Florida, we will be on the same level of people buying and selling condos than they are in the other 49 states. In Florida, since the financial collapse, we have been subject to a 25% down payment requirement for buying condominiums. How does that help a young person trying to afford a home, trying to get into the game? So now, once we go past August 3rd, in Florida, you'll be able to put down the same amount for a condo like you can for a regular single family home. We're talking anywhere from 3 to 5%. Big difference in savings costs, helping young people actually to get into the game of housing. So I've heard the BlackRock stuff, and I'm not saying, I think it's correct. That stuff has to end, but there are other things that have to be done as well. We want to make sure that we're addressing every aspect of affordability, not just one that sounds good on social media. To your other question, actually bring me back the other question. I want to make sure I get it.
So my question is, AI data center.
Oh, AI, all right, I got it, cool. Now, when it comes to AI data centers, do we want them to come to Florida is not the question. The question is, do we have the necessary power for them to work without raising electricity prices on the people of Florida? I know people have heard a bunch of the stories about power has gone up with AI data centers. Actually happens in unregulated states. In an unregulated state, if a data center comes on the grid, the power does shoot up very, very fast. The power costs shoot up because they're taking so much power. Florida is a regulated state, so your power bills don't necessarily go up. On water consumption, new data designs actually call for closed-loop water management systems. What that means is they're not just taking water out of the aquifer every single day. They do take some, think of it like your swimming pool. They take some, but you have your internal filtration systems that clean the water and repurpose the water. And you might take some because of evaporation, which is true. But the water consumption of the original data center design is not like the new ones that are built today. In Florida, require people. Number two, you can't take our water from us because we need water for the future of Florida. Not just the 23.5 million that call Florida home today, but the additional 5 million that are going to call Florida home into the future. Because folks, that's the truth. The truth is people are going to choose our state because we're the best run state in America. And they're going to choose us. So we have to make sure we have the water requirements for you and your future and your family's future, while also making sure we keep power levels stable. We're going to have to increase baseload power in our state. We need another natural gas pipeline in our state. We need small modular nuclear reactors in our state. By the way, the SMRs, my US Navy veteran friend, SMR, small modular nuclear reactors, are the same things that have been sitting on our nuclear subs for 80 years. Same technology, same stuff. And our Navy guys weren't coming home with green hair. Well, they might have yellow teeth if they were brushing, but they ain't coming home with green hair. That's a fact. So the truth is that the technology is real. It can help us with respect to the power dynamics. Let's talk AI writ large. AI is the next innovation in our economy. We've always had innovations in our economy. We went from the horse and buggy to the internal combustion. We went from the typewriter to the word processor. We went from fax machines to email. We went from Encyclopedia Britannicas to the internet. Innovation in an economy like AI doesn't shrink the pie. It actually expands the pie. Every cycle of innovation in our economy has expanded economic growth in the United States. AI is just going to be the next step in that. Are there going to be some data centers? Yes. Are we going to make sure that they're responsible to the people of Florida? 100% absolutely. But we cannot put our heads in the ground with the next wave of innovation. Because if Florida does not lead, California will. And they suck. If Florida does not lead, the Chinese will. And they want to supplant us as the world's economic and military superpower. I think these are important questions for young people like it is for all of us. Are we going to embrace the next wave of innovation, or are we going to put our heads in the sand? Here's what I know. I spent 17 years in the finance world. And I find a lot of people who are talking about this have never worked in the real world. They actually haven't. the people I find to talk about this. You do not embrace innovation, innovation runs you over. There was a company that used to be the world standard bearer for distributing entertainment. You might be too young. Everybody else in here knows. Blockbuster Video. They were the leader in the world for distributing entertainment. Actually, they could have bought Netflix. They were brought the deal. And you know what their owner said? Oh, we don't need this. We're Blockbuster Video. Today, there is one Blockbuster Video in the entire United States, and that's only there for nostalgic reasons. It's gone. Been replaced by Netflix. So as we have these political conversations, let's just not listen to cute points on social media. Let's actually think about what this stuff means. Let's manage the risks. Water is a risk. Energy is a risk. Let's manage the risks, but let's not run from the innovation. Because if we actually embrace it with our value system in Florida, that is how you lead the United States of America. That's how you lead. And that's what we're going to do. I gotta come back. It is good to see you.
Same here. Okay. Is that on?
It is.
Okay, so I'm older.
No, you're not.
And AI scares the heck out of me. And then also, how many jobs is it gonna take over? Or what can someone like me do to learn about AI and make a business or work for it? Or I'm scared.
I understand why a lot of people feel that way. This is actually how a lot of people felt when the internet came. I remember it almost like it was yesterday. I was at the beginning of I was high school transitioning into college. As a kid, I thought it was great. You had AOL Alarm was the way you got on, and it made that crazy sound. Everybody remembers that. So it's cool, dude. I'm telling you, man, it's all right. It's all right. This is always a concern with every wave of innovation. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there's not going to be any displacements. What I will tell you is the people who typically get displaced by the next wave of innovation are those who choose not to embrace it. I think AI, this is not Grok or ChatGPT or any of that stuff. AI, there's 1,000 different modules that are operating in the background in healthcare, government operations, finance, accounting, law offices, and you don't know about it. And it's operating today, and it's going to continue. I think the future for our workforce and for people overall is how you use AI as a force multiplier to expand not just your skill sets, but then your value in the economy. I think that's critical. The other thing I said about how I don't think the economy is a fixed pie, every innovation of America, every economic innovation, and now listen, let me take a step back. I'm not saying this is some guy running for office or a member of Congress. I'm saying this is a guy who spent 17 years in the financial industry. Nobody else running for governor has worked in the private sector. Let's just throw that out there, okay? I've spent 17 years of my life in the finance industry, so I've seen this. Every innovation in our economy expands the economic pie. It expands GDP. It expands possibilities for human beings to find the next job. One of the things we want to do around adult education is actually leverage technology to help people get retrained for whatever the next job is. The current job training scenario, no disrespect if anybody's here from CareerSource, but it's very antiquated. You have to take time out of your day to show up at that classroom and sit there for 2 or 3 hours, learn that new system, go back home. They might have done some of the coursework on the internet by now. I think with technology, you can actually help people get retrained and get to the next job or the next thing. I think for young people, it's going to be important to really be skills-based and master core subject matter. Actually have a game plan for how you're going to enter the working world. Not just saying I went to college and I hung out for 2 years and I got serious to try to figure out what my major is. And my major is something that really doesn't have economic power. So I graduated from college. I got this piece of paper because everybody told me to go, but I'm not making money the way I thought I was going to make. I think we have to be very, very, very focused about the pathways of success for every child. So I will not sit here and tell you that I have all the answers, because the truth is, when it comes to the next wave of innovation, nobody has all the answers. If you're anti-AI, you don't have all the answers. If you're pro-AI, you don't have all the answers. What I'm saying is we should leverage the technology. We should help people learn how to utilize it. So that way you can make yourself more economically viable in whatever the next wave of the economy that's to come. This is always going to happen. I remember the last big innovation. Does anybody remember when cell phone towers were the big thing?
Yeah.
Anybody remember when people were fighting over not putting in cell phone towers? I remember that. Nobody wanted a cell phone tower next to them. When they started doing the 5G boxes, the members of every local city council in the state of Florida was like, don't put those 5G nodes in my city. It's gonna bring everything to a halt. That was about 10 years ago. Today, everybody's begging for a cell phone tower. Everybody wants a 5G box. People don't want to turn the corner and they go from 4 bars to 1. And so I think we have to understand that waves in the economy come. The question is how we respond to them and embrace what is necessary, provide protections. Obviously, where there must, children have to be protected. That's a huge one. Got to protect kids. Let's embrace it. Let's manage it, and then use it as a force multiplier. That's how I look at it. Yes, sir. I'm gonna try to speed this up because there's a lot of hands going up. So I'm gonna try to speed up.
My name is Emilson, veteran immigrant. My question is, what is your vision for education in the state of Florida, specifically for military kids? And secondly, what part should parents play in shaping school policies?
I think parents should be at the head of the table shaping policy when it comes to their kids. I think parents are, obviously, because it's your child, your child does not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school district. They do not belong to the school. They belong to you. And so I think parents should definitely be at the head of the table. Kim Kendall, who's in the back, she and I were just in the back. We were just talking about the Parents' Bill of Rights. We were just talking about this. And actually, I remember, are you blushing back there? She's blushing. It's all right. It's all right. But I actually remember when I was in the legislature, my colleague, Erin Brawl, when we were in the House, she was the one that actually wrote the first Parents' Bill of Rights, the first iteration. And she worked like heck to make that part of Florida's law. I firmly believe that we're going to support that. When it comes to education, whether you're a military child or any child, we want to make sure every child's on a pathway to success for them. I think that we should have individual learning plans for every child in the state, so parents are actually empowered to see the academic gains and trajectory of their child, where the teacher in that classroom can actually see that and help them understand, where is this kid falling short? Where is this kid need more help? What skill did they miss along their way in their path to graduating high school? I think that's critical. So we want to make sure every child's on a pathway to success. It could be credentials, it could be college, it could be university, it could be apprenticeships, but it has to be very detailed and it has to be scoped for that child. It can't just be for the system. We have, most of our educational system is basically like, well, this superintendent has an A district. Aren't they doing a phenomenal job? And everybody claps. Yeah. Here's the truth. About 50% of those kids are graduating high school. They're not reading or doing math at next grade. They're not. 50% of those kids are barely doing it at a grade level. And then they go into the workforce. They're trying to figure it out. And there's no help for them. It's just it's them and their parents. So we want to empower parents in the state of Florida. We're going to continue to do that. You said one more? More and more. She said more and more. All right, here's what we're going to do. Because I'm going to come to you. Hang tight. But that lady almost like dumped and knocked over 4 people with her behind her. So I got to ask your question. You're standing up on a chair. Okay, now I'm kidding. Yeah, you need it. I got you.
In a pun for being in a bar, I'd like to tap into your financial acumen and address the issue of insurance for auto and home in the state of Florida. I understand to a degree the auto insurance because of the people not qualified to drive on our roads, and it shouldn't be limited to looking at only semi-tractor trailer truck drivers, and it should be also looked at for cars. And then for the insurance, I know personally, and I've talked to others, my insurance for my home, tiny home, is 3 times the amount of my mortgage. That is insane. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people during COVID from the north came down, and then they moved out after their first year when they found out the cost of insurance, basically, which I'm okay with them moving back. But for me staying, it's ridiculous. And again, you have the financial acumen to address it. It's been on the table for a long time. So I am attentive to your response.
I used to, when I was in the legislature, I chaired insurance and banking in the Florida House. We've not touched the regulatory framework of insurance in 30 years in our state. It's time to do that. And listen, this is not against Governor DeSantis or Governor Scott. They both did great jobs as governor. It's just that the insurance costs have really gone up the last 4 to 5 years. What the governor and the legislature did in 2023, what they were able to accomplish, no, it was 2022. What they were able to accomplish with tort reform was major. That was major. It's actually starting to bend the cost curve in insurance in our state. When I was in Charlotte County the other night, I had a lady who came up to me. Her homeowner's insurance is now going down. She lives in Punta Gorda, Florida. Her home insurance is now going down. She actually went to a new carrier and rewrote the project. So what I would advise is go see a new carrier and see if somebody will write it lower. I think to the core of what we're going to do next, we are going to keep the tort reform in place because those rates, their loss ratios in the insurance companies is coming down. To get a little into the weeds, the reinsurance rates internationally, they're actually coming down as well. And so what I would anticipate, because we didn't have a storm last year, and praise the Lord for 2026, what I am anticipating is that we're going to see some of the frontline insurance companies are going to request premium rate reductions. And actually, it's going to help a lot of homeowners in Florida. We're going to examine the entire framework. I think there's some ways where we can make it cheaper for carriers to operate in the state of Florida while also holding them accountable. Like I've worked in insurance, but I'm not an insurance guy. We're going to hold them accountable, make sure that they're with you the entire step of the way. Last thing I will say about it, and this actually dovetails with the young man's question. We're talking about affordability. The reason why insurance rates have skyrocketed in our state is not just because of storms. It's also because of the replacement costs of your home. When you are insuring your home, you're not insuring what you paid for. You're insuring what it costs to replace it. And so as a government, if we're decreasing permitting timelines and actually shrinking the governmental side of home construction, shrinking those costs, that actually, I believe, will have a direct impact on insurance as well. Because then when your appraiser goes out and appraises the property, they're going to be like, well, to rebuild this structure used to cost X, but then Florida made these changes, so now it costs Y. This is why I talk about the efficiency stuff that really, really matters. Because if government can actually operate at the speed of business, that gives you more flexibility to just chase your dreams and do what you need to do and afford your life, figure out the new ways of the economy, or how you're going to guide your kids through their academic careers, or like the young man in the back, how are you going to build the Florida dream for yourself? That's why we talk about these issues in that kind of detail. So I'm actually really excited to get into the insurance stuff. I nerd out on this stuff. All right, here we go. Here's what we're going to go. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Yen is getting mad at me, but that's what we're doing.
This is in my heart.
So run 5-star veteran center with homeless veteran center here in Jacksonville. And I'm going to bring this conversation to veterans for a minute. There are 2 topics that I'm dealing with in real time that I'd like to get your opinion on, see what we can do to help. But We have veterans when they leave our center that get subsidized by various organizations like HUD-VASH or others to help them pay their rent when they leave. And there are organizations out there that are failing to do that. And when that happens, the veterans themselves are the ones that pay the price and have evictions on the record. The other piece is military sexual trauma. And you hear about it all the time, and unfortunately it is a thing. And most of the time when you hear about it, it's against women. And there's all kinds of support organizations out there for women that deal with military sexual trauma, but not so much for men. And I'm finding that's a problem because I am dealing with that, and it's very hard to find that person the help that he needs.
Two things. I'm going to deal with the mental health side first. Sexual trauma or any other trauma, it's mental and emotional instabilities that need real help and need real therapy over time. In Florida, my comments to the Sheriff's Association was Florida is going to invest in a major way in mental health and therapy because obviously, like members of the military, members of our law enforcement community, they engage in so many different activities every single day, and they're basically told and trained they just got to swallow it and hold it and continue to the next call or continue to the next mission. And I think just like our veterans need help, our law enforcement community needs help. So we're going to invest in that and really think through on a dynamic level how we get people the help that they need, especially the men who could have been victims of sexual assault when they were in the military. And so we're going to work on that. Two, on housing, I mentioned at the top, the state just started their pilot program. What we want to do is make sure that the dollars are actually ending up exactly where they need to end up on time. One of the things we found in a lot of these programs that choose to help, they don't have the infrastructure to manage the money. And so money starts falling through the cracks. And that's how you end up getting people who are either A, something doesn't get paid on time, B, the wrong thing got paid and out of that allotment. We want Florida's government to be technologically sound so that we're tracking all this in real time and helping a lot of these institutions and nonprofits and agencies accomplish the mission. Because if you can accomplish the mission on the front end, it actually helps all of us, not just the veteran, but it helps all of us over the long run where people are winding up either on Medicaid rolls, or unfortunately they're ending up dealing with law enforcement, or they're ending up in emergency rooms dealing with acute issues. So these are things we want to manage as well.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you were number two.
Okay, thank you. So my question is going to go back.
Come around.
Yeah, of course. My question is going to be going towards veterans and.
Yeah, it's on.
My question is going to be going towards veterans and kind of gearing back during on his question and the affordability. Most of the people, when they get out, join into the military, they're going through boot camp. You have to mark down how many places you want to live. So, Florida's 1, 2, and 3 is where you want to get stationed to. With that said, coming into the state of Florida, you're looking at E2s coming in with families, E3s coming with families, and E4s coming with families, which they are making really the least amount of money when they're coming into these places, and they don't have enough on-base housing for them to be able to pay with their affordability check that they get for on-base housing. How do you plan to make, for military people coming into the state, they have the youngest families, for them to be able to live in a rental until they can afford a home? Because the rentals in this area, Northeast Florida, I'm a real estate broker, so in Northeast Florida, it's extremely high for those military people coming in town that they can't afford to live in communities that's going to be beneficial close to the base, close to where they work. And it's affecting the enlisted people more than it would affect those that would get housing up front.
So
It's subsidized.
really the biggest thing in that, and I want to make sure I understand it right, is how was the state going to address attainable housing, obviously for veterans, for renters, et cetera, across the board. We want to actually examine how it permits these jobs and gets these jobs up and running. One of the biggest issues with housing stock, and this goes back to the original question, it just takes too long. It takes 2 years to put a shovel in the ground in our state, 2 years. For an apartment complex, that's closer to 3. So I don't have to do the math, you do the math. If it takes 3 years before you put a shovel in the ground, it takes 1.5 years to actually build it, now you're close to 5 years. And those 3 years in permitting are free. So how does the developer actually have a rental rate that can pencil in a job where you can deliver housing for the E2s and the E3s that you're talking about? That's why we want to speed up that process of permitting in our state. And I think when people hear me say speed up the permitting stuff, they hear, oh no, he's talking more development. Not true. Actually, what we're talking about is more efficient development. So you can actually deliver the housing that we need in real time. It actually helps local governments plan out roads. So you can build out your road infrastructure as well, so that you don't have a situation that we do have in Florida, where we don't have urban sprawl, except for downtown Miami. But what we have is suburban sprawl, which is real wide, same roads, more people. And so the way you get around that is you actually have efficient building processes. And me personally, what I want to see us do is have regional growth management plans in the state. Northeast Florida needs a regional growth management plan. So does Southwest Florida. So does the Panhandle. So does the Heartland. And in the Heartland, your growth management plan looks more about how do you protect ag lands, how do you protect rural Florida, how do you protect beach lands, how do you protect the waterways all through our state, our freshwater lakes, mostly up here in Florida, while also delivering the housing that we need and also building the roads that we need. And the only way you do it is you have to have a durable plan over 20 to 30 years. You don't do it, and this is now, I'm gonna be glib, you don't do it by tweeting about it. You don't do it just by running your mouth. You actually work with local governments on what are gonna be the growth management projections for our communities, live by that, and then you build accordingly. So you can actually build the attainable housing that you need.
Congressman, I'm so sorry about this. We appear to have time for just one more question.
All right, who was number 3? Who's number 3? That was you? You were 2? Oh, well, now you're 3. No wonder you look shocked. I'm sorry. Well, now you're 3.
No worries. I'm a teacher.
By the way, I'm glad you love your veteran husband.
Yeah.
Anybody see her shirt? I'm glad that you did.
Thank you. I am a teacher here in Florida, and to piggyback on his question, we are the lowest paid teachers in the country. And you mentioned the IEPs for all. We're already working 14 hours a day on the lowest pay. And I love my job. I love the kids, and we do it happily. But it doesn't help us at home to afford housing. It doesn't help us to afford groceries. When our salaries were 75. I've been at this country. So what is your plan to help teachers afford to stay those extra hours for the IEPs for the kids, which we all agree upon, they should all have an education plan. But what's your plan to help us?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. When it comes to salary, I'm not going to commit a number. We really do have to study that in the budget, because Florida's hitting a confluence of things. We're trying to figure out how we are lean and efficient, while also how we cut taxes, while also how we pay people like our teachers and our sheriffs and our firefighters. And so what our mission is, what I'm committing to, is that we are going to make our government far more lean, which saves resources. And if we can save those resources, then we can make strategic investments in teachers, in law enforcement, et cetera. There is, listen, in every government, I don't care what state you're talking about, there's stuff that can be not just cut, but things that can be leaned out, make sure it's more efficient so you can save resources. And that's what our mission is going to be as Florida's next governor. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. Now, in terms of how you guys are going to process that time, I actually think that the way you guys go through IEPs right now is pretty archaic.
It is.
So you know firsthand. It's archaic how we do that. Again, these are things where we actually do want to leverage technology. There's no reason why we shouldn't do it. It's more about the fact that we just don't do it. And to be blunt, the reason why we don't do it is because it favors some vendor somewhere who's making a lot of money. They're doing quite well, while everybody else is trying to figure out why is this so hard. I'm not in the business of doing things that are inefficient. I've never done that in my professional career. I don't do that in my career in Congress, and I'm not going to do that as governor. We are going to be a very efficient and responsive state. A part of that is our mission is also to be the most transparent state in the country, period. And when you open up the blinds, you let the sunlight in, oh yeah, there's going to be places where we can find those resources. I've had several, I'm not going to get into the details here. I've had several conversations about various aspects of state government where if we apply the correct incentive, that we're gonna be able to shake the trees loose and be able to get some stuff done. So I'm very excited about doing that. Being an ESC teacher, you know firsthand the amount of work that goes into our children with special needs and the children who have fallen behind. The mission of having individual learning plans, the purpose behind it, is so that it actually makes it simpler for parents and teachers to be able to track progression. When Jeb Bush brought the A+ plan in, and by the way, he needed to bring that in because we weren't measuring anything in our schools. We didn't know anything. When he brought that in, yes, it created a rubric of accountability that was very intensive for teachers to have to manage. And that accountability is very important because at the end of the day, it's about the students that we all love, we all serve. What we want to do is make sure that the accountability system is far more efficient and responsive. We're not waiting on tests to report to us 3 months down the line after the kid's already on summer vacation. We want to make sure this stuff is happening in real time to empower you with more information to actually help make your job easier. Fair. All right. They gave me the hook. Well, listen, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. One thing I will tell you, you might have loved an answer, you may not have loved an answer. I want you to hear it from me. The second thing is, when you're electing somebody, what you elect is a decision-making process. Because the issues change. How they process information is what remains. I don't like talking about other candidates, and I'm not going to start today. I'm going to talk about me. I came up in the conservative movement, Tea Party movement, 2009. I've been a committed conservative. I have, if not the most, one of the most conservative voting records in all of America. Just in Congress, but even when I was in the state legislature, one of the most conservative members to serve there. I'm a businessman, 17 years in the financial world. To me, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. We want to be efficient. We want to be responsive. We want to be transparent. We want to make sure that Florida's government is fighting for you. That's what we're going to be building on. The governor has done a tremendous job leading our state. We're going to keep his wins. We're going to take our state to a whole other level. God bless you. Thank you so much for being here.